the fuzz part, the really kind of fun bit with some tremolo arm action. Meant to do that. Hello and welcome to Sound Like, where today we're going to look at Knights of Cydonia. Now this is kind of a big, huge fan favourite. It's a stadium audience pleaser, actually any audience pleaser for kind of hardcore Muse fans, what I'm talking about. It's right up there with the likes of Supermassive Black Hole, Hysteria, maybe Uprising as well. I really enjoy playing this one, and it's a great excuse to get my Ibanez out for its first time in a Sound Like video. It's really, really good for this, only because of the floating trem on here, which is great for kind of doing sick dive bombs, my dude, but also kind of pulling up on the strings as well where you need. And it's also got an MBK2 in the bridge as well, kind of key for this. That's the guitar. Now I'm going to show you step by step throughout the entire song all the pedals I'm using, and there's only one way to introduce that, and that is with Pedalcam. Okay, so Pedalcam for Knights of Cydonia. So we have up to 6 different presets for this currently on its own bank. So we start with the intro, which is just the overdrive distortion. Now I should really point out that this is leaning a lot more to the overdrive for this whole kind of song. I do kind of occasionally like to add in some delay, as long as it's tap tempoed in, just kind of give it this more kind of ambient feel to it. This is as the kind of riff comes in, so I can then, if I'm in this mode, for example, on the ES8, I can just put the delay in, which is on number 8, and then take it off. But on the basic version of this, it's just the overdrive distortion that's just in there with this kind of setting. Then the main kind of guitar intro, then we go into the kind of fuzz part, which has both the Big Muff and the Fuzz Factory. With this section, as we can see on the display here, just about maybe, both of these pedals are being affected separately and then combined, the same sort of thing that we looked at in Assassin, for example. It's the same kind of ethos in that I don't like how they sound when they just put one in front of the other. I much prefer how they sound when they're added separately like this. It's just a preference that I have. So that's the whole fuzz bit. Then after the fuzz part, we go into the guitar vocal mirrored section, which is just the blues pedal and the delay. Now the blues really should be cranked all the way up for the gain to kind of really get everything out of it, because it's a low distorting pedal, so I need to kind of crank out as much of it as I can, and it sounds really quite good. It kind of sounds quite accurate, with a lot of repeats on the delay, particularly goes down really, really well. And we have no special circuit kind of going on here, so that's that. This is then the same patch is then used for when the vocals come properly in, and then after that we then go into the build-up section where we have the octaves going up the scale, and this is the overdrive distortion and the blues pedal being combined, and again it then being affected separately and then combined, just to kind of give the kind of an offset sound, a more of a blocky, chunkier sound that I really enjoy when building up to this part of the song. And then after that then comes the big riff, which is the Big Muff and the overdrive distortion. As we saw just there, clicking this on turns my whammy on. I'll just demonstrate that again. So it's off. Actually, I'll just show that. So it's on a different setting, and then I go up, it turns it on and changes it to the octave harmony preset, and it's a harmony down is just the kind of the big riff of the song, just on its own, just with these two pedals. Again, they're combined after the fact, after affecting the guitar signal separately. It has a really kind of a nice, bigger, bolder tone to it, which I really, really enjoy. And then after the vocals are done and we're back into it, and then we kind of go into the final parts of that solo, is when I do bring in the whammy for the very, very end of the song, which is great. And then the very end of the song, the outro, is just the delay and the overdrive distortion, just for the winding down of the song, if you will. But that's not really that important for the song. Well, now that that's all done with Pedalcam, I will now show you step by step how I sound like Knights of Cydonia. Let's do it. Okay, so the intro of Knights of Cydonia, as I said, it's the overdrive distortion. We're leaning a lot more towards the kind of overdrive side of things. And you can use some delay with this. The way I play it, this isn't just the, but we'll get to it. It's the kind of intro that I really, really liked from like 2006. The way I got this is from the Reading and Leeds Fest live performance of Knights of Cydonia, so I really, really like it. It's very subtle. Now I'm going to play it with some delay, which uses my outro patch. kind of conversely with it, despite it being an intro, and it sounds like this. And there we go, it's kind of pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I really enjoy that sound, just a kind of a really subtle way to bring the song in. It's almost sinister. The chord itself is just based around an E minor. We just augmenting it by adding a C note on for the first section. And then the alternate one is adding the D. It's just really nice. It's not important if you just want to focus on what's on the record. It's just as simple as. That's all it is. That whole section, that whole part, it's the same amount of distortion. It's just changing it between really big, powerful strikes on the strings to then tremolo picking, where you really need to focus on having that sustained power going on the whole way through. And that's the kind of trick to it. So we've done that. Now let's look at the kind of the fuzz part, the really kind of fun bit with some tremolo arm action. Meant to do that. Right, so the fuzz section. So the way I bring the fuzz in is the strike on the E string after the run down the neck, or the surfer rock bit, my dude. Radical. So it's just, to cue that up, it's just. That's the whole bit. As we saw in Pedalcam, it's the Big Muff and the Fuzz Factory being affected separately and then combined. So we get the low mid frequency content from the Big Muff, but then the kind of the Fuzz Factoriness from the Fuzz Factory. And together they sound really good. It's better than having one pedal then affect the next. The same as the only reason why I ever combine these things separately. Now I don't really pick for that section. I just rely on the slackness of the strings coming in from the tremolo arm, and then the kind of aggressiveness of me playing it, fingering on the notes on the fretboard. So again, I'll just demonstrate a bit of that. It's so not once normally do I pick the strings for this. If I did, it would sound like this. I don't really like that sort of attack coming from the strings for this section because it's quite regular. It just kind of doesn't quite miss. I like the kind of the rounded kind of sound we get from just hammering on the strings with your picking, but it's entirely up to you. But that would be my suggestion, just a little trick. If you've not got a sustainer like I don't for this guitar, it's going to be a little bit trickier to kind of keep that sustain going, so there's even more emphasis on how you're attacking the strings with your fretting hand, because your picking hand isn't picking, it's all tremolo. And if we just take it off, if we go on bypass with this, The vibrato from the tremolo arm needs to be constant. And then after we've done all the fuzz bit, we then change it up all over again by going over to my patch 3 for the verse, which is the delay and some blues pedal stuff. That's a lot of repeats, so let's check that out now. Now for this part of the song, we're going from using the tremolo arm to tremolo picking, and it will sound like this. Loads of repeats there. So that's the first part of the kind of the intro to the verse, as it were. It's very much reliant on the delay for this to kind of build up the atmosphere for it. If we take the delay out, it's just all that ambience and that, not the power, but the body to that is just completely sucked out. It's just, it's fine, but the delay really adds a lot more to it. Now because that is this section is playing the same notation, it's just an octave higher than the previous section. It's exactly the same, but with the way I hear it, the tonal differences with the really big shift of distortions or fuzzes that we are changing to and from really kind of does sort of transform the way that section sounds, even though it's exactly the same notation, same pace and everything. The feel for it is dramatically changed. It's a really good example of how your pedals can really affect your sound, but the core of it's still very much dependent on the coming from your picking right through to the very end of it. But it's a really good example of how your pedals can really change it up. And the big player for me is the delay. It might be subtle, but to go from the kind of a dry fuzz tone to something that's kind of got loads and loads of delay in it really opens it up, and it's a really great example of the song to show the kind of the range tonally and the journey that the song takes, not only kind of lyrically but also musically as well. And then after that section, and then all the those chords are all the same for that section, and then after that, when the vocals are kind of in, the triads come in. This is all the same amount of effects and so on. My preferred section, sometimes I kind of skip those chords, but I do like the just on their own for that section. It kind of really does kind of cut under, and the amount of delay that we've got going on there really brings it in. But it's entirely your decision if you want to play that. The key player, the main focus of it is the kind of the distortion that we've got and the delay. And then this next part of the song is really helped by the amount of delay that's going on there. So it's just again, really kind of does contrast from the kind of the lower, more full bar chords that are going on there. It's a lot more lively, it's a lot more jumpy, even though it's the same amount of effects we've had since the tremolo picking right up to now. It's all kind of really dependent upon how you're really playing and how you're picking with these strings. A good tool for this part of the song, again, if you've got it, is the tremolo arm, just to kind of really subtly add some really nice low vibrato. It's not overly necessary. We've kind of done the main part for the vibrato, so if you've not got a guitar that's got a tremolo arm, it's not the end of the world, but it's just a really nice way of bending those notes in there a lot better than you could just by bending them with your fingers, because you need to change the pitch of these strings in unison at the same time. I don't think I could do it very well. And you can only bend them up. With this, you need to bend them down to pull those notes down and pull them back up. So it's just a little trick, and then the very end of that is just something that Matt's doing live. I really like it. When I first heard it, that fits so well, and it's a shame that it doesn't really appear on the album for me. I really enjoy that that kind of jump from the kind of the slow picking to really kind of going out there, gearing you up for the kind of the main riff again. So the blues driver and the delay pedal at this point are really kind of pulling more than just double duty here. They're doing some tremolo picking stuff, low broody chord stuff, and then these kind of bright triads. Without changing a single setting on any of them, they're doing really, really well to go through all of that. Normally when we have kind of tonal shifts in songs or kind of character shifts in songs, I do like to change up pedals, but this one's a great example of you can keep the same effects and alter the way you're playing, the delivery of your picking to really affect the outcome of the song. So Sonata Cydonia is not only just a great song, it's a really good example of what you as you're playing can bring to the song itself. So now we've done that, we'll go on to the next section, which is just the build-up. So the build-up, now this comes after we go through the kind of the opening riff of the song again, the whole... Yeah, boring, we've done that already. Now it's time for the build. Now there are two ways of playing this part of the song. I would argue that you can use this same sort of distortion that we've got. We're just going to look at the octave part. The other part is just the... It's kind of... that I don't really enjoy playing that part of the song. It's irritating because it's so, you have to palm mute it but kind of pick really quickly, and it doesn't really do much for me. It's kind of very stationary, very boxy. I much prefer the octave build up because, well, one, it's a bit easier to play, and it really kind of does help the whole ramp up part of the song. And it goes like this. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It's just going up, apart from when you kind of, when either you make a mistake like I did, or you have that one part where you come down. Again, that's just kind of like teasing the kind of the build-up to it, but I really enjoy it. Now, as we kind of saw in Pedalcam for this, it's using both the overdrive distortion and the blues driver, again being affected separately, then being combined to help have this boxy tone. Now, I really like this sort of sound for this part of the song because the guitar here shouldn't really be trying to be the center focus. It should just be part of the rhythm section for this, because during this part of the song, there's all that emphasis on the multi-layered vocals going on, and that's the main focus. The guitar should just be supporting the drive of the song, not being the lead of it. And the way that these pedals sound like when they're combined, it's just a lot of boxy mid frequencies. That is really helping that. It's not very bright and it's not very low rumble, so the bass is fine doing its thing. The guitar's just there right in the middle of the frequency range, just to kind of really round it out, to support the vocals that are going on there. And it's really good. It's really simple. It's very, very, very straightforward. You just got to look out for the rhythm pattern that's going on there, and you're away. And it's a great build-up for the riff, which we'll now look into. So now, the riff of Sonata Cydonia, which is kind of the big major part that everyone really likes for this. It's combining the big muff and the overdrive distortion separately and then putting them together. Now, these two pedals really work on their own to cover kind of what I need. The big muff has all the kind of fat, low grittiness, and the overdrive distortion has the kind of the the nice boxy mids and a bit more grit as well. The way they're combined is it sounds how I hear it, it sounds perfect for what it is, and it sounds like this. And that's all it is. It's just that. It's great for what it is. It's really changing up from the build-up part of the song, which is just a... It's great. The overdrive is exactly the same settings as it was before, nothing's changed. The big muff is the same as it was when we had the fuzz part going on. There's quite a lot of sustain going on there. Let's just take it up to an extreme, turn it all the way up to get as much boost as we can out of that. It's not, well, the sustain isn't really a boost, it's just more stuff. So you can really kind of get the harmonics out of those parts of the riff really, really well. I only use this preset for the sections where the vocals aren't in. When the vocals do come back in, I switch back over to my intro sound, which is just the overdrive distortion. Mainly because we have a bit of dynamic range going on in there, and so that the guitar is kind of really transforming the way it is tonally, even though it's playing the same thing. When the vocals are brought back in, they're the main focus of that song. The guitar should really be pulling back to then come back in again when the vocals are out and we're just focusing on the guitar again. So it's... Let's just kind of compare that with going to and then from. It's very, very subtle if you kind of don't really focus on it too much, but it's really key to have something you can pull out of the fatness of your guitar tone for when the vocals do come back in, so that when they come out and you really need to push, you need to kind of crank it up and turn it up to 11 again, you've got that sound in there to kind of then help kind of pull that kind of double duty, which is partly why I have a section for it where I'm combining the overdrive distortion and the big muff together, so that when the guitar is the focus, it's really there, and when you need to pull it back, you still got most of the sound there, it's just not as well defined. Just a little inside trick you might want to try. It's not the end of the world if you can't do that, but if you've got the kind of those sounds at your disposal, I'd really suggest you use them. Then after the vocals are finished and we go back into some guitar focused parts again, there's so many ways that Matt has played the Knights of Cydonia kind of riff again, or other things. It's entirely up to you how you play it. It's just have that main focus on there again. I'll show some ways that you can play that, but it's just the main key is just to have that main distortion, that main drive there again. So whatever you want, really. That's great and all, which is fine. It's entirely up to you how you play that. But then when we go on to the next part after that, which is just the pull-offs, it's just a... Now this is where I deploy the whammy. It's not subtle at all, it's really big and it's out there. It adds that lower octave, and I really enjoy it, and it sounds like this. It's great, and I really do enjoy using it. Obviously it's not on the record, it's just, I really like adding in the lower octave harmony on a riff when it's just one string, one kind of note at a time, not harmony stuff on its own. It really works for that. It's just on the very end of it, really kind of does bring it out, has a lot more kind of grit to it, helps the song move even more, even if it's kind of, well, this is the end of the song, it's kind of keeps it moving right up to the very end to give you something to kind of focus on. That's kind of it for the kind of what's on the record. The final bit that I like to play is just some harmonic stuff. So after we've done the Now it's entirely up to you if you do that. It's just harmonics on the 12th fret and the 7th fret on the G, B and E string. For me, I like to do it because it does kind of bookend the song. On the very end, it's just that strum on the, which is just an E minor chord, which is the way I play it, which is how we enter the song with the whole. So we're taking the same chord, but we've kind of altered the way it's played, we've altered the pitch of it, it's an octave higher, or 2 octaves higher, whatever, 1 octave higher. It's just a nice way to bookend it, and harmonics are a really nice technique that I really enjoy using. They're really kind of like the duller, more well-rounded ones, but it really works for me, and I enjoy doing it. And the delay, once again, is the key part of kind of really stretching out that sound and giving it that kind of nice atmospheric ending. Without the delay, it's just boring. It's just a guitar. It just feels like another section just tacked on. But with the delay, it adds kind of some finality to it. So without it, it's just. It does nothing for me, and it probably will do nothing for you. The delay really is important in really putting a full stop at the end of the song. And then you can do all sorts of crazy stuff, ramp up the feedback and then play with the time control on your delay pedal if you want. But that is how I play and how I sound like Knights of Cydonia. So that was Knights of Cydonia. I hope you enjoyed that one as always. As we've seen, we went through the song quite from the beginning right to the end, every kind of bit of kit that I'm using and all that. I know it moved quite quickly, but the pace of the song does move quite quickly as well. It's kind of quite deceptive, but there's also a lot in there to kind of really make you question how are you playing it and what can you really bring to the song. And the same with a few other songs that I've shown you in this series. For a full cover of Knights of Cydonia, you can click here, and it will show you everything that I've shown you just now. The same pedals are in effect, the same way that I'm playing, so it really pulls everything I've shown you together with some context along with the song all together to kind of show you how, if you apply all of the techniques that I've shown you now, how you could sound like Knights of Cydonia as well. So I hope you do check that out. Before we leave, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Maybe leave a comment down below about what you liked about this video, or songs that you'd like me to put into a sound like video, or any other kind of ideas for videos that you've got. I'd be happy to look at those and chat with you down in the comments. Until then, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.